I'm going to put Maria in the hot seat first instead of Duncan, just because. She's like, let's talk about silent voices. All right. So, number one question for silent voices is it's a topic and an ongoing concern for just thousands and thousands of families. So, one of the things that I have to ask because of the current climate we're living in, autistic patients in general, especially children or anyone really with autism, has special needs, special considerations, etc. How has, from the families that you know, how is this crisis, medically, etc., impacting the autistic community, do you think, from what you've seen?
Well, I think it's been very difficult for the autistic community, especially now with COVID, because a lot of these children are not attuned to learning virtually. They want to do their own thing when they're on their computers or their laptops or whatever, and they're not good with someone telling them, that you have to do this or do that, because their brains think differently.
Oh, sure.
So people don't understand that. They think that, oh yeah, just because they're not, in tune with everybody else means that they have to act a certain way, and they don't. They can only act one way, because a lot of people don't understand that autism is sort of a brain disorder.
Yes, absolutely, without a doubt. Well, and more importantly, too, there's one component that's educationally, that's one part of it that's physically, and then more importantly, socialization is important, the psychological aspects of all of this. Are you finding that families are having to adjust a way of living all the way around to be able to accommodate this temporary situation? Because, at this rate, it may not be going away anytime soon. And so we worry about, are all of their needs being met, not just necessities, but total needs. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I hear you, because I even heard something on the news the other day that a lot of the parents these days are worried about having their kids socialized, when there really is no way to socialize them but to socialize them virtually, because they can't be in contact with one another because they're afraid they might catch the virus. And so it's very difficult for them to adjust to this climate. And like I said, with special needs kids, it's even more difficult, because they have to learn to look at something virtually, and they can't have any contact with, like, a behavior therapist who would come in and work with them one-on-one. They can't have that, or a speech therapist that needs to be in the room with them, so
right, absolutely,
it's difficult all around for them, and I feel for them.
Now, I have to ask you that question because I started asking it earlier, and I've asked this before. Working with children. Now, there's a component I've noticed. One filmmaker told me once, they said there's the one complication, which is kids have their own schedule, their own vibe. They move when they want, they talk when they want, they don't talk when they want. But more importantly, sometimes children can be extremely terrified of the camera or the expectation we as adults have. So how did you make it more tender and more for lack of a better term, just more of a caring environment in front of the camera? Because I can imagine I'm petrified every time I do one of these. He keeps telling me you're perfect. I'm like, no, I'm not. I'm terrified right now. I'm so terrified right now. It's every screening. I'm like, oh my God, I'm in front of a camera. So, and I'm a 51-year-old woman. So imagine toning that down to like a 7-year-old. So how did you acclimate yourselves to accommodate them?
Well, it's really funny because I asked all these people to just send me their comments from their heart about a subject on autism. And so they actually filmed themselves on their cameras. So this was all filmed on their iPhones or whatever. And they sent them to me. And my granddaughter, who was 7 at the time, she's very attuned to the camera. So she didn't care. She just wanted to talk on camera because she just loves the camera. But I just said, talk from your heart, talk about your experiences, about what you deal with autism, and Joe Coffin that you saw, it seemed like he had a whole speech there, and he actually did write some of that down. But a lot of the people that I interviewed actually spoke from the heart. So they were just like, yeah, I really want to talk about this. And my niece at the beginning, she's my niece, Melissa.
Right.
I didn't even know she had a son with autism. Nobody knew until she said,
oh my gosh,
I'll talk about this. I want to talk about my son. And I'm like, what? You have a son with autism? Because I had put out a call, to different people and put it on my Facebook. I'm looking for people that want to, talk about, someone in their family with autism, because I'm doing a documentary. And some people answered me right away, and she was one of them. And when I found out her son had autism, I went, what? Your son has autism? How come we didn't know that? How come the family didn't know that?
That's surprising.
There's still a lot of stigma,
Oh,
People don't want to talk about it.
I'm sure, absolutely. And so, of course, because you're dealing with family, is there any reservation when you go on film? Obviously there's a big difference between talking about it in your household, et cetera, and because it can be somewhat taboo. Was there a reservation on your part, or maybe you kind of thinking, yeah, this is a bit risky to do this, or ask my family to do it?
It was a bit risky for me when I started talking about it, but something happened, an incident happened that spurred me to do this film because I got very angry because my grandson, you saw he's Damon. Damon's in there and he's screaming. And that's something that he was doing for a long time. He would just, every time he'd get excited, he'd just scream, just like that at the top of his head. And it didn't matter where. He could be outside, he could be, inside, he would just scream like that. And everybody would be like freaked out because why is this kid screaming like this, right?
Mm.
So we were at a food truck space and some women started mocking him. They started, every time he'd scream, they'd do the same thing. Ah, ah. And I said, wow. So my son-in-law went over to them and said, you know what? Why are you mocking my son? They go, we're not mocking him. We're just having fun. And I went, oh my God. I had to get in there because I got angry. And I said, this is not okay.
Sure.
You can't just make fun of kids like this. Oh, we're not making fun of them. We were just having fun. And then the lady tells me, oh yeah, I have a son with autism. And I said, no, you don't, because you wouldn't be doing this if you had a son with autism.
Sure.
You'd be making fun of them. But that's what, it spurred me on to do something because I feel like people need to be more educated on special ed and stuff like autism. So yeah, and it gave me reservations because my family was sort of like, you're really going to do this? And I said, yeah, I want to.
Oh, absolutely. It seems to be kind of your MO because obviously I've screened you before. So it seems as if you gravitate almost very naturally to doing documentary style filmmaking. You're almost kind of getting stuck into that mold. So I wonder, is this just going to become your newfound passion? Are you going to continue on that same vernacular, or do you feel like you need a refreshing change? I almost feel like I should expect a comedy from you at this point.
Yeah, I'm good.
Seriously.
Comedy.
I mean, I have to, you got to throw it in the mix there.
Yeah. Oh, well, you saw my trailer, All the Wrong Moves.
Yes, I did.
Yeah, that's a comedy. So
yes, and it's pleasantly, it's a pleasant surprise, obviously, because a lot of these subject matters. Well, obviously, you have the other film, of course, which I don't want to give it away. Well, you could talk about it if you'd like, but the other film, of course, again, is another documentary style movie involving your family, of course. So you do have a lot of heart sensitive things. So I wonder, one of the things that you've learned, maybe you could share with us as a director and a creator and a writer, why is it important to you to do movie messages? Meaning there are some filmmakers I find that are specific to this. This is all they do is, I want to make a meaning and a movement, and I want people to be aware, and I want to touch lives. Some people like the comedic portion of it and just want to entertain and be engaging. Why this? Why this gravitation to this? Why now? Is it your age? Is it where you are in your career?
I think this is where I am in my career. I want to tell meaningful stories, like you said, but at the same time, I want to do what touches me, what I'm passionate about, what gives me that drive at that moment. But like you said, I will have some comedies. I do love comedy, in fact. So I will be doing a comedy, which is going to be a martial art comedy.
Oh my God, look at that. Now, you folks may not know this, but Maria and I, of course, work. You have done work and continue to do work, if I'm not mistaken, with a film festival yourself. We talk a lot about where the future of our festivals are. I mean, this is absolutely lovely the way it is. I like the fact that I'm finally seeing people, et cetera, and you feel close, and the audio and visual is good. But, you can't hug anyone or be face to face or exchange business cards or whatever have you. So from your one, where you're sitting right now, Maria, because as you know, Art is Alive is a New York found festival. For me to rip it away has been very painful. Not that I'm not happy he's here, but the city isn't. This is so very different in the Midwest versus doing New York. And I fear at this rate, our beloved New York as well, you can see it's burning to the ground, so to speak. So on your neck of the woods, how are you guys faring with your festival endeavors, and where do you see this going now?
Well, we're kind of in the same place where we can't have anything local either. I mean, the Portland Film Festival, they were going to go virtual as well.
Right.
And a lot of people are thinking about doing even small venues, like a theater with maybe, people spaced apart from each other, social distancing, but still have a film festival.
Sure.
So yeah, it's very difficult right now, but in a way, it's kind of convenient for us who can't travel. You know what I mean?
Right, that part, I get to have all of you with me, which is a good thing. Because I said to Michael, I'm like, we could try to do it local, but the problem is if you have people that are afraid or unhealthy or whatever and don't want to leave, then you have a whole group in majority. I had a hard enough time, believe it or not, begging people just to attend virtually. I think
Oh,
it's a scary
really?
time for it's a scary time for a lot of people. And I won't lie to you. Some people are of the vernacular like he is. He's like, I am so over sitting on this couch watching something. He's like, let's get out of the house. Let's go to dinner. Just to leave the house and be able to do something, even if it's just watch a simple movie. We forgot what it's like to be in a movie theater, which it shouldn't happen. I've always said the cinematic experience is better in a cinema or at a restaurant or a venue. You can experience it. Not that you're not here, but it's a different form of expression. I don't want people to give up on, I don't want my theaters to close. I don't want them to give up on the idea that it should be where it's supposed to be. I'll even invent a drive-in. I'll do them in a parking lot. I've suggested doing that, or a stage show, so it's interesting.
Well,
But go ahead, Drew.
Oh, I'm sorry. It's really funny that you say that because I feel that there are more drive-ins popping up.
Pop-up drive-ins too, like not just the real ones, but you've got pop-ups, you've got diners that are doing it. Like in New York, we had the Queens drive-in that they're doing that sort of good stuff. But it's becoming a very interesting, scary, frustrating time. I mean, this is a wonderful distraction. Theater and art and being able to showcase so many different movies is great. But yeah, I'm very worried about our future, all of us, whether it's writers, actors, entertainers, producers, directors, it's scary. But back to Silent Voices, my question for you in terms of now shoot schedule, how long did it take to get all the moving parts in place? Because you moved pretty quickly.
It took me about a month to get it all in place. It was just people Dropboxing me their files of their interviews and things like that, and then sending it to my editor. And he was able to do that very quickly, So yeah, about a month it took.
And it really does look like a movie, to tell you the truth, because when I listen to that sort of thing, like Dropbox me this and send me this, I'm thinking, well, what about compatibility? I mean, was that camera compatibility and then sending it to an editor? And I'm like, oh my God, he must be pulling his hair out, right? I mean, I'm not a tech girl, but I imagine so.
Well, I'm serious. He was at first because he was like, oh my God, there's so many different venues that you filmed this on. I said, well, it's not me, it was my friends that filmed them on their own iPhones, right? But then the thing is that I learned about filming this was everybody filmed it this way instead of landscape.
Okay.
So that's why you get the lines on the side like that.
Got it.
But now I'm learning that you must film everything this way on your phone, or it turns out with those funky lines. So
that's what I like about her. She's a live and learn sort of girl. This didn't work out. So next time we're just going to try this and we'll shoot another movie and we'll submit it again. And then we'll learn the next time. And, 4 films down the road, we'll have it fixed. Oh my God, girl, you just crack me up to no end.
I know.
So I got to tell you, Silent Voices, I could not judge for obvious reasons because I love that woman. And I mean, I do love that woman. She is literally right about 3/4 in when I was on Facebook and I'm like, I'm done. I'm so sick of dealing with this and everybody's so difficult. And she just sent me the loveliest paragraph like, okay, let me just tell you how wonderful you are. And I'm like, I love her. So I can't judge her. I can't judge anybody I love. So I was like, okay. I was very surprised by the reaction. I was very uncertain as to how the judges were going to take to this. And there wasn't one that really, the only real criticism was, of course, the change, the formatting. You know what I mean? Like you're talking about, where you've got like this, that sort of
I know.
Yeah, it's not like your traditional film. So there was a concern with that. But otherwise, one thing that stood out most to them was they had a heart for this. And it wasn't just because it was autism, but because it's telling good stories about people that are all bonded by the same message. And that touched them, and obviously enough to get you into this. Are you planning to do the award ceremony?
Sure.
And I can't go into detail. See, I'm trying so hard not to give it away, but I suck at this. Every panel, I'm like, are you going to the awards like a dork? Because it's pretty obvious why I'm asking. Anyway, yes, you should. I have to say that I am proud as always, not only to be able to screen you, but because just to see your face is worth it. And just to, you teach me a great deal about what it means to be patient and to be persistent in your goals. And I too am on the same journey. Every year as a founder, I learn something new. Every day as a person with a professional actor, I learn something about acting from him or how to, well, he's really good at that. I mean, he's the bomb. I mean, I'm not just bragging. Well, I'm totally bragging right now, but he's just so he's just so good at acting. So I like that you get me to learn how to keep learning,